Hey everybody, uh, really excited to get things going. Want to really relate what's going on with um my family, what's going on with the case, and how you can help. So, my case, for my CPS case, that's coming up March 20th. We're doing the permanency hearing at that point. And I don't perceive that going sideways. It's going to be a challenge and a learning experience to deal with a kangaroo court like Corio County and feel powerless. Um, I imagine that is exactly how other families feel when they stand across and get stared down by Judge Monkowski and Judge Mabry. Now, I'm sure they got into being a judge for noble reasons, to be an arbiter of justice, to be a defender of those who are having harm done to them, possibly. Um, and I really don't understand why people are persisting and allowing this to take place. They allow the kangaroo court to happen. People feel um, highly defenseless when they uh, deal with Judge Mabry, when they deal with Judge Monkowski, because their whole mission is to be there in the courtroom in as short amount of time as possible. It is apparent in their demeanor. It is such a farce of justice. It's like they show up, they're in court for maybe, I mean, I can imagine court lasting all day in some cases, but that's all paper shuffling. The pomp and circumstance of the family court in Coryell County is highly due to be a show of the law, to be a show of that they're doing everything properly and in good order. Now, if someone actually dares to challenge the proceeding, challenge the narrative given by Child Protective Services, law enforcement, or even a family member who's trying to take you to court and get your kids or whatever, it's it's a highly prejudiced system with no real basis in reality. Now, I would understand family law being very important in cases where, just recently in Arlington, they had a case where um, law enforcement was called because kids were malnourished, they were starving, they weren't going to school, they lived in filth. I understand the state intervening at that point because there is a breakdown somewhere and it's a detriment for the children, an actual detriment for the children to be in that situation. I also understand situations where drugs and alcohol are involved, where, let's say mom or dad or whoever was strung out, or if there's molestation allegations or whatever have you. There's a lot of legit reasons to have family court. There's a lot of legitimate reasons to have child protective services. When it comes to combating parents who wouldn't otherwise be fucked with if it weren't for the perjury and the false allegations of others. And these are people whose kids are healthy, they sleep in a good environment, they go to school or daycare regularly, they have a positive demeanor, they don't have multiple trips to the hospital, they're just generally well cared for. They're in good spirits. The parents are, in good spirits, or whatever. That happens where we get people that are in family court who shouldn't fucking be there. And I'm a case where uh, the mental health code in the state of Texas was highly abused and is going to be continued to be abused in the state of Texas because it's a loophole that cops can use to detain a person who is not automatically acquiescing to what they want, not giving into their investigation, not incriminating themselves otherwise. So they have this loophole where, well, you look a little disheveled, and in my expert opinion, I'm going to go ahead and place an emergency detention order. Well, that's not what the health code is for. The health code is for an individual who is presenting at that given time with very obvious mental health issues, obvious, or an obvious health issue that they are not in control of, and that is getting the better of them. So there's an emergency situation where that person needs to be assisted and not placed in handcuffs and not treated as if they are a criminal, because there's no criminal activity being done. There's no criminal activity afoot. So to place that individual in handcuffs and feel like it's an obligatory, necessary thing is a slap in the face to the health code, when the health code is there for individuals to be treated with respect. And this long and the short of it is cops don't want to take the time. They don't want to do the due diligence of a proper investigation. They want to be able to arrive on a scene or pull somebody over and automatically have something to charge them with, because that's where they make their money. And if they have to be somewhere longer than 30 minutes, be damned if they're not going to get some sort of ticket out of the deal. So that's what they're being. Unfortunately, it's what the everyday officers being pushed for in their upper chain of command, and that's what we see. We see time and again where there's quotas, where there's email chains about what the expectations are, about what areas to go policing so we can get more revenue. And that's really what it comes down to. In fact, there's an all-out war in several areas against the homeless because it's easy to ticket them for vagrancy. It's easy to ticket them for littering or violations of code, sleeping in a park, or whatever it is. It's a money generation scheme, and it keeps individuals in the system in order to generate money for that institution and the state. Now, a poor person is not going to have a lot of money, but there are a lot of government programs where they supplement police stations, they supplement prisons and jails who have a high number of the poor who are in their care because they have to feed and clothe them. So they're supplemented with money in order to do that. They're supplemented with services in order to make that happen. For being poor, you shouldn't be put in a cage. You shouldn't be seen as other. I mean, there should be community organizations, and there are organizations out there who help feed them, who help clothe them, who help put them in decent living situations despite having no money. And to be honest, yes, for some people it's a lifestyle. For some people, they like being poor. They like being they love that lifestyle. They love living in that mode of, hey, I love being on the street. That's my thing. I love doing what I need to do to be on the street and have my money and go smoke my cigarettes and my reburns and whatever it is. I get that, and it's kind of a blight on the city. It doesn't look nice, but they're free people doing what they want to do. That's not criminal activity. Do they commit crimes sometimes? Probably. Petty theft, mostly nonviolent crimes. Um, or do they get caught with a substance? Yeah, because it helps them deal with their shit. Yeah, they might get caught with some booze out in public. Lord, calling the hoses. I mean, come on. If they're smoking a doobie out in public, who gives a fuck? We live in a day and age where the lies we've been told are not holding up water. They're not holding up in an argument against logical people now. It's like, no, like you can't be a Schedule 1 drug because the Schedule 1 part indicates that the substance has no medicinal use. We know that's not true. We know that there are medicinal uses for uh, marijuana. It's just the way it is now. So why is there still a thing? Anyways, I'm detracting from the point of this video. I'm digressing a lot. The real reason I wanted to make this video today is a huge ask. I don't normally put myself out there to ask for assistance. I'm trying to raise money, a specific amount of money, $800, because I have a lawyer willing to help me do the legal writing to help me write my lawsuit, to file it against the multitude of entities that I want to take to court for the false arrest and for the torture of myself and the torture and the anguish my family's been dealing with since September 14th. I want to raise $400 to pay the attorney to help me with my legal writing. I want to raise an additional $400 for the filing fee to file the lawsuit. Now, anything outside of that, any number that exceeds that amount is going to go towards driving to and from court. I'm not doing it to supplement my income because I make okay money by myself. I'm not extravagant. My family, we wear humble stuff. I mean, this hat's a gift. This shirt's, not a very expensive shirt that I got for Christmas. I got a recent haircut with me and my kids. And it's a once a month, venture, once every 2 months. So I mean, I don't live high on the hog. I don't drink anything hardly but water. We don't go out a lot. We don't do. I mean, if we go anywhere, it's to my wife's soccer. The money's going to go towards helping us not only file the lawsuit, but to transition to Arizona. Ultimately, we're moving on the plan. If court goes well and everything goes to plan on March 20th, our intention is to move to Arizona by the 24th and be in Arizona, moving into our new home, and ready to rock and roll. That's the game plan. That's the plan of action. That's the whole point of what our next chapter is going to look like. The next chapter for my family looks like this. Maria's going to go to school. It's going to be great. She's going to go to college. I'm going to work and go to school. I'm going to work full time. I'm going to get back into school. I'm going to finish up my Master of Fine Arts in Fiction. And then I'm going to get into a doctoral program. That's the game plan. That's the trajectory I'm going. I'm still going to do my podcast. Still going to work on my books. I'm still going to do everything in my power to combat this case. If I have to, oh, thank you, Brian. Yeah, I mean, any information helps. Right now. I have an attorney willing to do the legal writing for me to pen all the facts and get all the information for her so she can document it correctly and let me know, hey, you can sue these entities because they're intimately involved, so she's willing to consult and to do the legal writing. However, The filing fee, as far as I understand it, in the state of Texas, for federal court is $400. If I'm wrong, then I'll adjust that amount. If it's $300 or whatever, that's really what I'm going after. Any donations after that's going to go towards the move to Arizona, helping my kids stay happy and healthy. Because I mean, the separation anxiety my kids have is tough to deal with. When I'm home, and I'm not home right now, I'm actually in Vegas. I'm getting ready to do my leadership class tomorrow, which is, amazing. It's helped me keep my head above water. It's helped me realize a lot of the self-sabotage that has gone on in my life, everything like that. Uh, Unfortunately, I'm not indigent. I have an income. My wife has an income. We will be indigent actually relatively soon. Well, no, I wouldn't say indigent, but we will be in transition. So, but indigent, unfortunately, I am not. We do have a little bit of money. So let's see. Can you have $1? Well, you know, I'll Venmo you a fucking dollar. But no, I'm trying to. Yeah, like I said, anything that I'm raising any money for is for the filing fee. It's for having the lawyer draw up my lawsuit, and then it's to help transition from the Fort Hood area to Phoenix, or the greater Phoenix area. We don't have a place we're going to live yet. It's still up in the air. Like, we didn't get house hunting leave. That wasn't afforded to us. So we're using a 4-day weekend to get to Arizona, use essentially 2.5 days of time to find a place for the eventuality of moving into that place March 24th. And yeah, I mean, trying to retain a lawyer. I mean, I tried to retain a lawyer for my CPS case with the Pritchard Law Firm. They are absolutely willing to help me, but they were going to accept no less than $7,500, and I could not pull the money together to make that happen. I wish to Almighty God that I wish I had found a way to raise that money and get their services, because I wouldn't be dealing with the extensive separation between my children and I. My court-appointed lawyer, Mr. Bowden, was a piece of shit. Didn't do anything for me. Didn't help with shit. Didn't return phone calls. Marcus Bowden is the worst fucking lawyer you could possibly get assigned to your case. He'll self-righteously say, "Oh well, I'm doing this for you. I'm shit hot. I'm the best there is. There's, whatever. I mean, doing everything as quickly as possible." Bullshit. Like, I gave the motherfucker evidence of the false arrest. Gave it to him. Gave him information. Yeah, it was after the show cause hearing, and he was like, "Well, my hands are tied." And I've got another lawyer saying, "No, I'll get your fucking kids back in a week. Hire me, pay me the money. I'll make sure that fucking happens." Come on. Who are you going to believe? The lawyer that says, "Hey, I'm going to do shit for you. I'm going to make it fucking happen." And then they even lowered it for us. They're like, "Okay, pay us 5,000, get 3,000 down, or, get 2,000 down. We'll work on the rest later. Just get 5,000. Don't have that fucking money. I don't. I mean, I'm not indigent, but I'm not rich either. I mean, I don't have that kind of disposable income. Lord, I wish I did. But that's why I'm asking now. I'm to the point where I'm like, fuck, help me, people. If anybody's followed my case, if anybody's said, "Hey, I've watched all the videos, I've scrutinized everything, I've looked into you." I mean, I'm a fucking open book. My information's out there for the world. I shit, everything I post on Facebook, I protest. I'm a professor at Vista College. I mean, my information's out there. There's nothing special about me other than being someone who was wronged by Copperas Cove PD, wronged by Coryell County, the state, and have dealt with a fucking mess since September 14th. Dealing with this crap. Any social workers are licensed. Chief Morgan and a crap ton of stuff. Yeah. So I have filed complaints with every entity that I can think of. I have, in 1 minute, tell me your case. Do you want me to wait a minute and tell you, or do you want me to tell you the entire case in 1 minute? Because that's a difference there, Brian. Essentially, recently, and very recently, I went and did an interview with CCPD. And to sum up my case, essentially, September 14th, my wife's, it was funny, my wife's therapist supervisor made allegations that I was a danger to myself or others based on misinformation and no conversation with myself or my wife, who was supposedly the source of that information. She never said that. I know she never said that. She testified in CPS court as to never saying that, and she's told me I never said that you're a danger to anybody. I never asserted anything like that. I was supporting my wife. They wanted to have her go inpatient. I'm not in the military. My wife's active duty. I'm a veteran, and we stay on post. My wife's unit commander lied to law enforcement, saying that she was JAG and that my wife and I had made suicide pacts before and that we had a history of doing it and all these other lies. And she couldn't back it up with a shred of proof. She tried telling the mental health deputies that I got out of the military with mental health issues. Never true. Got my DD 214 to back that up all day. I got my sergeants and I've got my petty officers out in the Navy with me. Everybody will back me up 100%. Never had a mental health issue whatsoever. Regardless, yeah, I think I watched this about a month ago. Okay, I remember. Yeah, so that was the videos are Deputy Fox, body camera from an error on the police. So the police fucked up. The Coryell County Sheriff's deputies, like I said, in numerous videos and occasions, I applaud their effort in doing the investigation, finding no cause to detain me. Copperas Cove fucked up. They did the emergency detention. A lot of my animosity has been towards specifically Officer Bartlett, and then he's going to be named in the lawsuit. So that's the whole point. I'm going to name him in the lawsuit. Officers Cortez, Nunez. I have filed complaints against the sheriff's deputies, even though they did do their due diligence. They did violate the law, and in essence, they failed to intervene. That is a law where essentially, if they allow other entities to violate my civil rights, they are in the wrong. They are at fault, and it's called failure to intervene. So I've done a lot of research. I've looked at the mental health code. I'm working in tandem with a very good investigative reporter out of Horizon City. He's very diligent in helping me put together kind of the whole narrative and understand the health code better. He's very specific with language, which is fantastic. And it's very appropriate that he's reached out to me and helped me. And I've had interviews with the Copperas Cove Leader Press, interview with the Copperas Cove Banner. They said they're going to look into it. They were going to do an open records request for the information. And right now, Copperas Cove isn't giving anybody any information because they know they fucked up. They won't give anybody the police report unredacted. They won't give it. They won't give anybody their camera video. They won't give anybody their any of the info because they know they messed up, but now the steps have been taken to have an official investigation start against those officers involved. The resolution I want from this is uh, definitely damages, seeking to um, one, have all three officers involved, Nunez, Cortez, and Bartlett and Belk. Belk was the supervisor, the mysterious supervisor that never showed up on scene, that made it apparently okay for Officer Bartlett to violate my civil rights not once, not twice, but several fucking times. So yeah, Officer Bartlett is a grade A piece of shit. He's a horrible officer. I was told by numerous people that he pulls people over frivolously. He doesn't have he doesn't have a specific thing he pulls people over for. He just wants to search their vehicle and give them grief. I have it on good authority that he fucked up his marriage and that he was abusive and that he was and I have it on good authority. I mean, I got that from I have that on very good authority from a source that was there when that took place. All those situations. Yeah, I mean, you're right, Steve. They illegally searched my vehicle. They took my firearm, gave it to my wife's chain of command, who gave me the ultimatum that, hey, your wife cannot come home until we have the firearm in our custody. I'm like, first off, it's my property. I'm a veteran. I'm a lawful gun owner. I'm not going to give you my property. I had intended to take it to Chicago, and that was the plan. Take the firearm to Chicago. That was backed up by my twin brother all day, backed up by my mom. I'm just, and like I said, if you watch the videos, you watch the entire transcript of what happened. And a lot of people are like, well, we don't see a false arrest. You weren't placed in handcuffs. I'm like, I was actually. I was placed in handcuffs, and I want that video from Copperas Cove to add to this narrative, but they refuse to give me the information. Let's see, goes human rights sources, do a program. They can't redact, and they have to put in writing the denial. So actually, I have done the open records request, and I have the Attorney General's ruling that they can redact the information, that they can keep the information, the video, the audio, the phone call, everything from me, because they still have a pending case. They have not given a disposition to the case, so they could very well still file charges against me. I guess they have a time period. I don't know what it is. I don't know their statute of limitations on how open they can keep a case against me. I don't understand or have direct knowledge of what they can and cannot do in regard to doing that. When I do file my lawsuit, yes, that's going to be part of my discovery package. And at that point, they will definitely have to give it to me. And that's what I'm waiting for. I'm excited about that. That's why I want to file the lawsuit. I want to get all the documentation, all the video, all the audio, anything I can get my hands on to build a solid case, a more solid case against the fact that Copperas Cove PD violated my rights, caused tremendous harm to me and my family. I even want to, drag my CPS judges in there because they ran a kangaroo court. They didn't listen to evidence. They didn't allow me to admit evidence. They didn't allow me to get discovery. So you're talking about discovery. You know what's fucked up is when I was in CPS court, I specifically asked for a copy of the unredacted police report from Copperas Cove. They said they didn't have to give it to me. They didn't provide me an unredacted copy of that police report. And I'm supposed to be given all the tools to mount a defense against the accusations that were in the affidavit. Part of that would have been the police report. The officers weren't there. The deputies weren't there. I couldn't, I didn't have time. I got the affidavit, and then 2 or 3 days later, we had the court. So I got a sheriff deputy show up my door, hands me the affidavit. Never been handed one of those before in my life. 2 or 3 days later, I go to court, and in court, I'm not given discovery. I wasn't allowed to admit evidence, even though I said I want all this documentation that I had on the desk. It was my medical file from Metroplex. It was a litany of complaints that I filed while I was at Metroplex, now Advent Hospital. And the mental health code. I had the police report from Coryell County Sheriff's deputies outlining how it was a false arrest and where Cove PD didn't meet the requirements under the law to do the detention. So that's and then ultimately my accuser, Brian, in that situation was CPS for neglect, was Child Protective Services, because my closest relative at the time I didn't know was in Arlington, about 2.5 hours away. So my kids went into state custody at that point because my wife was already at Darnell Hospital, and then they drove me from the daycare to Darnell Hospital and put me in the emergency room until I was then transported at 3 a.m. to Metroplex Hospital. So, the accuser essentially was Mr. Garza, who I obliterated on the stand. I've been trying to get the court transcripts for my show cause hearing, trying to get the court transcripts for the last hearing I had with Judge Mabry, because her response to my question, the question I asked was, what basis does the state have to keep my kids in state custody? Her response is, you must have done something to be here. Didn't read the case notes, didn't read the notes from the family therapist who saw the video and was like, whoa, this isn't good. They're not here for lawful reasons. This goes against the health code. He outlined that in his letter, in his writings to the judge. Judge obviously didn't read it. She also said, hey, this is my process, and if you say one more word, I'm going to push this case out to August. I was in a situation where she was literally holding my kids and my future, essentially preventing me from moving to Arizona, over my head, so I didn't say another word. I fired my lawyer on that day too, Mr. Bowden, a classic piece of shit of a lawyer who won't return phone calls, won't return emails, won't file motions you ask him to file or admit evidence you ask him to do. Doesn't care. Just wanted to collect a paycheck. It was an overreach of the government, absolutely. I think the best approach to this is actually going after specific language in the health code and my civil rights, and all the civil rights violations, and the anguish and the continued stress levied against my family and my kids. Let's see, they won't submit deliberations on how they come to their conclusion. Who won't? Overreach is the key. Well, I mean, it's definitely overreach. It's overreach on a grand scale because it's overreach by Darnell Hospital and the Army. Essentially, the overreach is predicated. It's actually started on post and reached all the way into the civilian sector, into a civilian police department where they overreached their bounds, they overstepped their bounds, and provided false testimony. And I have the proof of the false testimony. I have it on tape. They provided false information to law enforcement, and they have no basis in any record that they looked at. And it's a HIPAA violation to disseminate information that's not even factual about my mental health. And then to have never spoke to me, have never had a word or discussion with my wife, to assert as a mental health professional, as a mental health counselor, that I was a danger to myself and others based on the word of an unlicensed therapist that you have working under you. Mind you, Captain Mitchell, my wife's therapist for that day, was an unlicensed therapist. Never explained to my wife that she was a mandatory reporter. Never explained to my wife about what her rights were as a patient. Any of that. Never took place. And it's ironic that even when I was in the emergency room, the asshole who was filling out the paperwork said that I voluntarily wanted to go to Metroplex. I'm like, voluntarily my fucking ass. I was just told they were going to take me there. I didn't voluntarily want to go anywhere, and it's clear from my video that I was just in shock, like, I can't believe this shit's happened to me. I never ever asserted I wanted to seek treatment, get any help for anything. I was rebuking that and asking for a lawyer the entire fucking time. I have notes, I have video, I have testimony from the different personnel that are there that will denote everything I'm talking about and provide detail like, hey, I was against that shit the entire time. Let's see, for civil rights violations, but narrowing it can cost you the case. You have to sue in district court for civil rights violation, but no. So it's district court. Like now, I'm confused. So like I want to file and put it in the right place, but I don't think, Brian, you understand the entire complexity of my case. Yes, there was government overreach, and yes, there was a violation of my rights. So you don't to prove overreach and don't try to go after the individuals, or they will find a loophole. So go after the entities at large, and not file specific suits against the officers. So that's why I'm confused. I want to name. I definitely want to go after the state, but it's also a government overreach by the U.S. Army. So, like I said, I mean, I would love a lawyer to sit down with me and say, I'm going to help you with your case, because I've been in contact with the Texas Civil Rights Project. They won't do dick. They cite that they may not have the staffing to do it, but I think it's just because my case is challenging that they're not willing to get in a tussling match against a large entity like the U.S. Army. And I also believe that the ACLU of Texas and the Texas Civil Rights Project and other individual lawyers are afraid to take on in court so many entities. So let's see. True, but I have looked into the same thing for myself. Yeah, fuck the ACLU. They won't do dick. Yeah, so I'm in an uphill battle. Like I said, any advice that you can give, I'm going to get the lawsuit drawn up, and then I will file it in the proper court that I need to. And that's what I'm trying to raise money for. Like I said, I'm trying to raise money to get it written up by the lawyer I'm in contact with. She can't represent me, but she's agreed to do the legal writing for me, which is what I need. And then, when it comes to the filing fee, whatever that is, $300-400, that's what I want to use the money for. Like I said, if you donate to my PayPal, any money that goes into my PayPal is directly going to go towards my kids. It's going to go towards clothing. It's going to go towards our move, getting us set up in Arizona, and going to continue, and it's going to support me in being able to continue to fight my case, even though I'll be living in Arizona. It's going to give me money for plane tickets to come back, money to, uh, drive here if I need to, and show up in court and be ready to kick ass. I will file pro se if I have to. I would love a lawyer, but it looks like I'm going to be pro se when I start and kick off this case. If we settle out of court, that's ultimately what I perceive will happen is these entities won't want such a large black eye. Like Advent Hospital, Metroplex Hospital, they don't want a black eye. Darnell doesn't want a black eye. Major Samuel, Captain McElroy, Captain Mitchell, and the battalion commander, I can't remember what the fuck his name is right now, but all of them fucked up. all of them allowed and escalated situations that allowed this to happen. A lot of the allegations, one of the allegations says that Fort Hood law enforcement found me with a gun in my mouth outside. I'm like, think about that for a hot second. If Fort Hood police saw me with a gun in my mouth outside of my home, do you think I would have been able to make it off base to get to my kids' daycare? Honest question. Just think about that for a second. Do you think that would have been allowable in that given situation? Fuck no. They wouldn't let me go anywhere. But I digress. And once you look at the narrative by all the entities that were involved, you'll understand like it's not making sense. The guy that's being held illegally is starting to make sense. The wife, who nobody spoke to except for Captain Mitchell, is the basis for all of this nonsense that transpired. Now, I'll definitely own the fact that would it have probably been easier to hand over my firearm and giving it to the unit and then tried going up to Chicago at that point? Probably would have been a better choice at that point. But I was in that mode of, hey, no, I'm a lawful gun owner. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not going to turn it over to a chain of command who has repeatedly ridiculed my wife, repeatedly found every mechanism that they can use to try and take her rank away, to try and drum her out of the army, even though she's done nothing wrong but be a white female in a black unit. It's racist as fuck. You may say, "Hey, Dave, you're racist for saying that." Far from the truth. The battalion commander's white as wheat, but her immediate chain of command all the way to her commander, they're racist black people. Even her immediate supervisor, who I actually have respect for, Williams, you know, is a black man, but he was integral actually in the fact that my wife lost her rank. He was actually an integral part of that component. Later on, did he think like, fuck, I helped fuck and screw her, I'm gonna go try and help her out? Yeah, he did. He actually went to her Article 15 or whatever the fuck it was and spoke on her behalf, but it was already too late. The commander was allowed to run at the mouth, get away with all sorts of lies, and the battalion commander was bought and sold from the beginning, like, oh well, I'm just gonna take it as it is, even though he lied to her face saying, hey, I'm not gonna take her rank, I'm not gonna, this is punishment enough, I'm not gonna do that to you guys. Turns around, takes her rank. Because he's a coward. He's a fucking coward. He didn't do an investigation. He didn't do his due diligence and say, hey, what did you say to law enforcement and where did you get that information? Didn't do that. He didn't say, hey, this is based on, this is all kicked off from the hospital. Let me do my due diligence as the battalion commander, look out for my soldier to say, hey, what really happened? What was really said? And how did that information get to where her husband is being detained? This motherfucker didn't ask any questions. He was just like, oh, okay, just let it happen. What a fucking joke. As soon as I remember his name, I'm going to be happy that I remember it, and I'm going to fucking blast him. I fucking hate that cocksucker. I'm going to subpoena his ass in court, and I'm going to fucking bury him because he is a co-conspirator to this entire thing. But ultimately, they may think it's, to the point where they shrink it all the way down to the scapegoat being Officer Bartlett or Officer Bartlett and his supervisor Belk, because Belk was ultimately the one that said, hey, we're going to do what Darnell wants us to do. We're going to do what the Army wants us to do and take him, place him on EMD based on the phone call we got from them. Damn the investigation by the mental health deputies. Damn any evidence that would lead us to believe he's going to go commit a crime. Damn all that. But we're just going to run on our personal feeling that we're going to do what the Army tells us to do, and we're going to place him in emergency detention order, bring him back on base, put him in an environment where his accusers have immediate access to him, and then we're going to take his children and put them in a foster situation where when I went to, and I have video of this, when I went to go see my kids for the first time after being released, covered in bug bites, covered head to toe in bug bites. And it was appalling. It was sickening. And the CPS people were just shrugging me, like, I don't know, you just might be allergic to bugs. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, my kids up until that point never had a breakout of bug bites. Didn't look like they. My daughter ate. When we went to see my kids for the show cause hearing, we went to McDonald's before court, and I'll never forget it. My daughter Genevieve ate like I've never seen her eat before. She's a nibbler. She's always been a nibbler. Like if she's comfortable, she'll even if she's like hungry, she'll eat like pretty decent. But up when we went to McDonald's, she ate all of her nuggets, her brother's nuggets. She helped my mom eat a couple snacks my mom brought her, ate half of my Uncle Billy's sandwich, and then ate two of my chicken tenders. I had never seen her up until that point eat so much. And she ate all of her fries and Sebastian's fries. And I was just incredulous. Like, what is going on here? Why? How is it that she's eating so much? Why is it? Is she malnourished? Is she not getting food? Because that's what I imagine happened is that they denied her food. They, I was just sickened by the whole thing. So I'm going to end the stream here in just a minute. I just want everybody to know like what my purpose is. Again, my purpose right now is to raise money immediately for filing my lawsuit, getting it written up. My secondary concern for raising money at this juncture is to aid in our transition to Arizona, help my kids stay happy in this transition period, help us, transition into a better way of being in a better place and away from this nonsense, and allow me to come back and continue the fight for justice, to continue the fight to redress my government, to continue the fight to uh, rewrite a horrible history that has been alleged against me and, will, invariably cause me trouble later on down the road for any fucking reason. If I get pulled over, and here's the thing I was talking to the buddy, my buddy Chris, I was like, what's fucked up is the case isn't closed for CCPD, as far as I know. They could issue a fucking warrant for my arrest based on some charge, and I would never know that shit, and get pulled over one day for like speeding or something, and then get hauled back to Texas for any reason. And no, as far as I know, it's not closed, which is the only reason the attorney general said they have to withhold information from me. So as far as I know, that's, I mean, they're going to have to make a decision soon because when I filed my complaint with CCPD's internal affairs, and I actually filed it with the chief, I got an immediate response. Like, I got a response the following morning, and then I got a call that morning by a lieutenant saying, hey, we want you to come in and give your version of the events, give us an account. I mean, he tried telling me that he didn't see the videos. I balked and called bullshit on that. Because I know in the email I got from the police chief, he says, hey, the entire command staff reviewed, the video, reviewed the information, but we'll launch an investigation. So it sounds to me like he'd already come up with a way to try and defend his officer, but it's not holding water when you have the Coryell County Sheriff's deputies adverse official documents. So who are you going to believe? The specifically trained mental health deputies or the not trained in anything, Copperas Cove police officer, Officer Bartlett. If the mental health deputies who took a specific course on how to discern whether somebody meets the requirements under the law for emergency detention, or they tell you specifically, we're not going to take them, you'd be doing a false arrest if you do, who are you going to believe at that point? Whose word carries more weight? I'm telling you right now, the sheriff's jurisdiction will fucking eat the jurisdiction of the CCPD. In fact, the sheriff should be ashamed of himself and ashamed of his deputies for them not intervening. He should have called the court and said, "What the fuck are you doing?" He should have called CCPD and been like, "Look, you fucked up. Go down and get this guy released. You fucked up big." And I hope the sheriff reaches out to me. I did file a complaint against his deputies. A lieutenant's following up on that complaint. He'll let me know what the disposition is eventually, and we'll go from there. I'm going to keep you guys abreast of the situation. I'm going to keep giving you guys information as goes. I'll let you know the exact day I file. I'm going to have the lawsuit in my hand and everything and how it's going to go on this epic journey of mine as I go through the system. So let's see. Assume you're doing it alone. Cover your asses. I tried to report my father missing and I received letters from the White House. Fuck. I'd love to receive a letter from the White House. I did file a complaint. I have filed judicial misconduct complaints against both judges. I filed a complaint against Officer Bartlett to the FBI, and I filed complaints with CID on the military side of the house to launch a further investigation into my case on the military side of the house because I do live on post and my wife is still an active duty soldier affected by this. So ultimately, that's what I want done. I want to, um, be supported, and if I'm going to be supported by everybody, that's the way I need to get support. Is not a lot of money. I'm not asking for a whole boatload of cash. I'm not asking to, give me $100,000. Not asking for that nonsense. I want a very specific amount of money. $800, which will cover my the legal writing, cover the filing fee. And like I said, if you want to donate further, if you want to donate for my cause, to keep me on the road, to keep me coming back and battling in court, and to keep me engaging Copperas Cove and Copperas Cove PD and this whole case, please donate and help me transition to Arizona as well. I look forward to your support. I need everybody's help in this. Please like and share the video, comment, let me know what you think. And I've had a lot of good feedback and a lot of negative feedback with the different videos. And I'm willing to provide documentation. I'm willing to discuss with anybody who wants to have a conversation about the context of those videos, the way the content was shown, because a lot of people do not see them illegally search me. They don't see me getting handcuffed. You're right. You don't see that because Cove PD is withholding that information. And once you do see that, and you do see what they said to me and what the CPS investigator said to me and everything like that, it'll become more apparent that they fucked up, which is why they're withholding the information from me. So, no oversight. The Department of Justice, FBI, Internal Affairs, everyone. No oversight is the issue. You're absolutely right. No oversight is the issue. I actually talked about this on my podcast, David's Life and Observation. What's pissing people off by and large is the lack of oversight, lack of accountability, and the lack of integrity by the Department of Justice. That's a digression for a different time. I'm not going to go too deep into that. If you want to go into that, please look at my podcast, go into, and I really delve deep into that matter. Let's see, I don't know. My channel, email me. I can share more. Absolutely, Brian. I appreciate you being on the chat here. I appreciate your high level of communication with me, and I look forward to gaining any insight and knowledge, and I'll talk to you soon. But I'm calling it good for now. I got to work on my book. Got to get to writing.